What is going on, everybody? This is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlotte, and today we're going to be talking about WWE. And I know the last time that I did one of these by myself, uh, it was talking about WrestleMania. It was about fantasy booking the card for WrestleMania. And that probably wasn't the most positive show that I've done. Um, Mainly because WWE has been very hard to support lately. And that trend seems to be continuing. So, this really is going to be another one of those. We're going to try not to go on for too long. Try not to ramble, try not to rant too much. But so WWE is not getting better. And it's very obvious that it's not getting better. In fact, it's very obvious that it's getting worse. Worse than it's ever been. Probably since 2019, when they were so creatively bankrupt. And that seems to be a trend amongst people who actually enjoy the product of wrestling, which WWE is not. WrestleMania 42 was not great. And the reason it was not great is mainly because of night one, because every single match, except for like two or three of them, were less than 8 minutes long. There was more ads than there were anything else on the show. Um, if you watched it on Netflix, which I did, you saw previews of the Hulk Hogan documentary on Netflix, which me and Alan are going to talk about in depth, probably on the next episode of this podcast. But when you're going in to watch the supposed biggest show of the year, and all you're getting is ads and for stuff that you don't want, that you don't need to be told about over and over and over again. And all the matches are barely matches. All of the matches are either passable to bad, except for the main event on night two. Night two WrestleMania, the main event was the only match that people are talking about because it was a good match. Everything else was passable to bad. And that is not okay. That is not okay for your biggest show of the year. Let's not forget, this show was supposed to be originally in New Orleans. And they just randomly moved it back to Las Vegas because I'm guessing because of TKO, because TKO has a stronghold on that territory, and they thought that they could just do that again 2 years in a row when they couldn't even sell it out, and they were trying to block people from going to viewing parties so that they could sell more tickets, and of course that eventually didn't happen. But it's very obvious to me that things in WWE are not okay. And they think it's fine because they are making money no matter what. And again, this is a trend in WWE. To them, a success is the fact that they make money, right? A successful show to them is the fact that they made money on the show. And that's fine for them because they're going to make money regardless. Because some people are just going to spend all the money that they have just to go to a show. But let's not forget, you had like a storyline between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes that should have been able to build itself, right? Because of the history of those two guys. And instead, they turned it into Pat McAfee being the centerpiece. Now, it would later come out that Pat McAfee did not agree with this because he, as a fan, probably understood exactly what the fans understood, that Cody and Randy should be able to just tell a story based on their history and that alone. So when a stipulation comes out that Pat McAfee will leave WWE and will never be seen again unless Randy Orton wins, it was very surprising to many when Randy Orton did not win. Because most people, when a heel makes that kind of declaration, it usually doesn't come true, right? But at least Pat McAfee was coherent enough to understand that this was not the right move. And it would later come out that all of that was because TKO got involved in the storyline, and TKO wanted to do cross promotion with ESPN because that's where Pat works, and that's where they're airing the pay-per-views in America. It is really bad right now. And the word that's been thrown around a lot and is starting to become more and more true is that it was the most soulless WrestleMania of all time, and that the product as a whole is soulless. And it's very clear that that is the case because you can tell based on everything that goes on. And I don't watch SmackDown regularly. I can't be bothered to watch SmackDown regularly, but I see the clips. Your United States Championship storyline is based around one guy making fun of the fact that the other guy is a redhead. So he calls him a gingerbread man. And in response to that, brings out a guy in a gingerbread man costume. And the gingerbread man costume becomes a centerpiece of the storyline to the point where they beat the shit out of the person in the costume, and they're promoting on SmackDown the funeral of the gingerbread man character, a mascot costume. This is not wrestling. They can't be, and they don't, WWE doesn't even bother to call themselves wrestling anymore. And there are some people on their roster, Gunther specifically, who is a wrestler, right? But he doesn't work for a wrestling company. And, people were saying WrestleMania was soulless, but the whole entire show, like WWE as a whole, is starting to become soulless. You can tell because there's no care put into anything at all. We're just rehashing things. We're going back to the bloodline. We're going back 6 years to Roman and the Usos just being a group again. And Jay pretending that nothing happened between him and Roman not even caring. And Jay not even caring that Roman treated him that way. And we're just supposed to pretend. We're just supposed to act like none of this happened and that we're the idiots because we pay attention. Like, they do not care about whether their product is good or not. And Nick Khan can go out there and say that he considers their product a success and that only a small minority of fans are the ones that don't like it. Those are the ones that give a shit. Because the ones that don't give a shit are casual fans who don't pay attention to the product. You should care about all of your audience. You should care that everybody is enjoying the show, not just your casual audience who doesn't know what's going on in the first place or barely knows what's going on in the first place. The people who pay attention are the people you should care about. But they don't care at all. And it's only getting worse and worse. So and even now they're using AI not only to make promo videos, which are some of the worst things that they've ever done. It's being reported that they're using AI to write storylines. And I mean, it's not surprising, right? It's not surprising because WWE is a corporation that does not care whether their fans actually care. They claim they care. They have that signature at the beginning of every show. Then, now, forever, together, forever. Where's the together part? Because they don't have it together as a company, and they're certainly not caring about their fans. In turn, the fans who are supposed to care do not care anymore. So, yeah, you can keep the children audience because they don't care either way. They just want to do the Jey Uso entrance and say who they like and support who they like and all of that. It's getting so unbearable. And I talk about all the time how the only shows I watch are Raw and pay-per-views because I can't be bothered to watch NXT. I can't be bothered to watch SmackDown. I can't be bothered to watch anything other than what I do watch. Because then I'm just wasting my time watching something that isn't for me. It's very clear. WWE does not care about my opinion or anybody's opinion who actually gives a shit about the program, gives a shit about what the show means to them. None of that. And on top of all of that, then WrestleMania passes, right? We get to Friday, and releases start to happen hours before SmackDown. So now it's not surprising that they're doing releases again. They do it all the time. TKO probably has a budget now and don't care about the roster, whether it's, got people on it that are worth keeping around or not. So when the releases started to happen, some of them were very surprising, mainly because a lot of these people were recently in programs that just wrapped up or had been in programs for a long time. Some of these people were not used a lot, and that's not surprising either. But just the fact that they let go of, I think, 23 or 24 people total in one night, and you could say that it was to make room for the call-ups, and that's neither here nor there, I think. But like some of these people, they brought them back for no reason, and some of them were injured. Some of them didn't even get an opportunity to improve and get to the opportunity to be on TV on a regular basis. It's a lot, right? So I don't understand. So let's talk about the releases, right? So the first name that came out originally when the releases started was Nikki Cross. So people couldn't believe that she was on the list, mainly because she's been there for so long, and she was killing it in the act she was in. The next one was Alba Fire. Now this one, she was killing it in NXT as Kaylee Ray, and then they changed her name, and then they had her in a tag team, released her partner the year before. So they needed to find something else for her to do. So they made her a lackey to Chelsea Green, which didn't fit. I mean, she made it work because she's really good at what she does. But Kaylee Ray is a wrestler, and the stuff you had her doing was not stuff that a wrestler does, right? And then she would tweet something after the announcement of her release, basically saying Kaylee Ray would batter Alba Fire, which is 100% true because Kaylee Ray, the performer and the character, amazing wrestler. Um, Zoe Stark was on the injury list for over a year with a knee injury and just got cleared to come back and now is released. Just an absolutely like horrible. I mean, and they never used to release people that while they were injured, or if they were injured and didn't return yet. I guess that's changed, right? But you want to talk about an upside. I mean, like, yeah, she was coming back from an injury, but she was so good in the ring when she was wrestling, right? And it's just not cool that she was let go while she was out for over a year and just about to come back. Um, so then this is where all the surprises really started to happen because they announced that Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, was released. Bo Dallas originally had left the company at a previous time being released and was brought back around the time that his brother Bray Wyatt passed away to carry on his legacy in this group. And you know, it was so odd to me that they did this long, almost 8-month feud with the Solo Sokoa group, and it just went nowhere. It just it just dragged and dragged and dragged and dragged, and they finally paid it off on the SmackDown before Mania, and now, I mean, we're going to talk about this, but 2/3 of the people that were in that match are gone. So Bray Wyatt, losing him was, hard on everybody. And it was very clear that he was the creative mind of this stuff. And WWE didn't know how to handle it without him. I think that was obvious. So after Uncle Howdy gets released, the rest of the Wyatt Six also gets released. Dexter Lumis, who had been released previously and was brought back, Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, all of them gone. And Eric Rowan, that guy has been through so much and has been released previously and lost not only Bray, but also Luke Harper, Brody Lee. And it's just so disheartening that they would give up on this group as a whole. And no idea why. No idea. But, and the same thing with Joe Gacy. Great talent, great performer, great everything. They didn't know how to use him. Dexter Lumis, exact same thing. Great talent, great performer. Now, granted, none of those guys are young. I think out of those three, Joe Gacy is the youngest. But the top of your card is everybody is like 38 or older. And there was a report that came out that supposedly they were trying to make the roster younger, which is very contradictory considering, like I just said, Cody 40, CM Punk 46, Roman Reigns 40. Uh, the list goes on of everybody in the main roster who is in the main event scene, who to this day there still hasn't been a WWE champion who was born in the 90s, which is crazy. Um, it's mind-boggling that they did not know how to handle this group as a whole, um, and now they're all gone. And I'm sure most of them will bounce back. I can't imagine that Eric Rowan is going to stick around in wrestling. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know the guy, but I'm sure there's if he wants to keep doing it, he will. Joe Gacy, he's going to bounce back. I can totally see him in GCW. Could totally see him working the Indies. I mean, I want to say that TNA is an option for these people, but just the idea that TNA works with WWE, and I guess some of the people don't care. Like we've seen Mustafa Ali work NXT. We've seen Ash by Elegance work NXT. So I guess there's no bitter feelings if they choose to work with WWE, then they choose to work with WWE. But some of these people could end up in TNA. No doubt about that. Next on the list was Andre Chase, who he's a veteran, worked the Indies and ROH and all that for a decade before coming to WWE as the with his brother and the Bravado brothers. And unfortunately, I think he probably reached his ceiling in WWE. I don't think they ever had plans for him to go to the main roster. Again, I don't know this, but I'm just going based on what I've seen on the screen. The guy was in NXT for 5 years, and they just kept going back to the Chase U thing. And I'm sure he was helping behind the scenes with training and stuff like that because of his veteran status. And maybe that's something he wants to keep doing. Maybe he ends up in ROH again and does something along those lines to help the talent. Because he's a great worker. They just overdid it with the Chase U stuff and didn't really give him the opportunity to move on from that. And I guess they didn't really care if they did or not because it didn't seem like they had plans for him to go anywhere. Upward. Next was Dante Chen. Never really got a chance to do anything in it other than in NXT. Great athlete, great talent. I believe he was the first Singaporean wrestler in WWE. Yeah, he didn't get a lot of opportunities either. Um, the one that was probably the next couple are the most surprising. Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. So Aleister Black left WWE in 2021 after being released. Went to AEW, spent 3 years in AEW. Didn't really have a great reputation after leaving AEW. Wanted to go back to WWE. I think it was related to the fact that Vince was gone. So he went back. Not even a year there. Barely a year back. And yeah, he did nothing. He had some okay matches here and there with Carmelo Hayes, but they never really had him in a big storyline. They never really did anything that made us feel like they wanted him back, right? Zelina, his wife, um, she got some shine because she got to hold the U.S. title. Then after that fizzled out, they put her with him, and they basically tried to put the carrying cross thing on them, and that didn't work. And I don't get it. Why bring the guy back at all? Why bring him back if you're not going to do anything with him? And maybe they never actually had a plan for him. Maybe they just wanted to get him back so AEW didn't have him anymore. But it doesn't seem like AEW seems to care very much if they have him or not. I always loved Aleister Black, Malachi Black. Always thought he was a great wrestler. Always enjoyed what he was doing, especially in the early NXT run. But yeah, he's gone from WWE again, and I can't imagine that he'll be seen in AEW anytime soon. But I'm sure eventually, maybe down the line, he will be. But I don't get it. I don't get it. And then, probably the most surprising of the bunch was Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane, who was enthralled in a storyline that did not get a payoff, where she was in this abusive relationship with her mentor, Asuka. And Io Sky, of course, was involved, and they were building to the eventual Kairi turning on Asuka thing, and that didn't materialize because Kairi is now gone. And they're still doing the storyline, just without Kairi. I can't imagine how you make that work without pretty much the centerpiece of the story. But yeah, so Kairi is gone from WWE. There's been conflicting reports that she asked to be released because she wanted to go back to Japan. Um, she hasn't confirmed that. She hasn't acknowledged that, or at least if she hasn't really acknowledged it outright. Um, and there's been an outpouring by fans that have been chanting, "We want Kairi." Um, and yeah, I mean, apparently she already moved back to Japan, so maybe there's just no plans for them to bring her back, even after the outpouring of fan support. But I've said this before. I think Kairi Sane is a great wrestler, and she's an even better wrestler outside of WWE. I've seen it. I watched her in Stardom. I watched her work with Mercedes. She doesn't need WWE to be fulfilled as a performer. Um, Next up, Apollo Crews, guy who spent a decade in WWE and had one real storyline, which was when he did that heel run and feuded with Big E. And that's it. He didn't do anything else at all in 10 years. It's pretty crazy considering he basically wasted his prime as a human. Not his prime as a wrestler, but most of his, 20s into 30s, just sitting around, just watching in catering, because WWE didn't care enough to let him show how good he is. We all know how good he is. He's going to prove it when he goes back on the indies. is going to prove it if he works, you know, Hog and Wrestling Revolver. And, does he get signed again? I don't know. I could see him ending up in like an MLW. Uh, I could see him even getting looks from AEW. Maybe not completely. Maybe not. Maybe in a tiered deal, not a signed contract. But who knows? Um, he's a great worker, amazing wrestler, and just doesn't get anything in WWE at all, except one Intercontinental title. It's just sad. Um, all right, next couple, another couple very surprising ones, mainly because, all right, the Motor City Machine Guns were only in WWE for a whole year. They won the tag titles on their third match ever in the company. Had that series of matches with the Street Profits and all the teams on SmackDown. Had that big ladder match. After that, nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it's not surprising because Triple H has adopted the Vince McMahon way of thinking when it comes to tag team wrestling. It doesn't matter. Look at the current tag team champions on the main roster. All three, World, WWE, and Women's, are not actual tag teams. R-Truth and Damian Priest is not a tag team. Austin Theory and Logan Paul is not a tag team. Brie Bella and Paige is not a tag team. WWE does not care about tag team wrestling, probably never will. So when the Motor City Machine Guns went to WWE at all, I had concerns from the beginning. And it turns out those concerns were accurate. Because now they're no longer with the company. And it doesn't matter because we know they can bounce back. They spent most of their careers outside of WWE. And there's ready-made things for them to do anywhere else. Anywhere else. Even if they wanted to go back to TNA, they could. But everybody wants to see them face the Young Bucks. Everybody wants to see them face FTR. Everybody wants to see them face Jet Speed. Name a team in AEW. Motor City Machine Guns, the Rascals. Everything that they could want out of being a tag team wrestler can happen anywhere but WWE. And then to bounce off of that, an even bigger surprise of a release was Santos Escobar. So last year, Santos Escobar's contract expired, and he kept his options open. He was looking for a new deal from anywhere. Apparently, he was talking to CMLL. AEW had interest. WWE brought him back solely so he would not go to AEW. And then they continued to not use him for most of the year. Then he started working in AAA and got hurt. And is still hurt to a considerable degree. And was fired. Again, we talked about this with Zoe Starks. Usually, I mean, at least the way it used to be, was that WWE did not fire people while they were hurt. That was considered, not a good thing to do. But they don't seem to care anymore. So now this guy who is still hurt needs to heal. And wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in CMLL anyway, once he is healed. And that would be completely okay because he would probably be happier. The rest of the releases are pretty much NXT and LFG, Evolve people. Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe were a tag team. I'm not going to have a lot to say about these people because I don't watch these shows. I don't know anything about LFG or Evolve at all. Um, Chris Island. Uh, the one I do know is Tyra May Steele, who won the first season of LFG, and then they did not use her at all. Don't understand why. Why would she would win a competition show and then not get used? No idea. Um, Serena Linton, Trill London, Malik Blade. I knew him from when he was working in NXT and teaming with Idris and Ofe. Luca Crucifino, of course, was doing stuff with Tony D. Then they started to do some other stuff with him and give him a new character. Didn't get the opportunity to use that new character, and now he's retiring from wrestling. I guess he just fell out of love with it. Maybe just doesn't want to do it anymore. But yeah, he's no longer going to wrestle. And the last name on that list was Carly Bright. So all of these people will bounce back. Some of them will probably. I mean, majority of these people are going to have 90-day non-competes. The NXT people have 30-day non-competes. Nikki Cross is going to end up in MLW or AEW or TNA. She'll end up in MLW just because her husband is there. Alba Fire, or Kaylee Ray as she should be called from now on. Could totally see her in AEW, could totally see her in TNA, could totally see her just working the indies. Zoe Stark, same thing as Kaylee Ray. Joe Gacy, I mentioned, tailor-made for GCW, tailor-made for like a huge indie run. It also comes down to whether these guys want to be tied down again. You know, Bo Dallas, I can't imagine that Bo Dallas is going to continue wrestling. I don't know that, but that's completely up to him. Aleister Black, as I mentioned, I think will end up probably working mostly indies. Maybe he'll sign with TNA if he wants, but he's not going to go to AEW right away. If he does end up in AEW again, it'll be down the line. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all of these people. But time of recording, I'm recording this on May 2nd. I woke up to some news that was very, very surprising. The New Day mutually agreed to part ways with WWE. And the reason that is because apparently they could not come to terms on a contract because TKO probably was trying to lowball them. And they just said, and they just signed a new deal, I believe, last year. So this was kind of going to be like a restructuring, I think. So the New Day is gone from WWE. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are gone from WWE. Probably one of the biggest surprises in a long time as far as people leaving the company. Because if you looked at it on paper, these, and maybe this just isn't the case anymore, we thought that these guys were WWE lifers, right? Kofi Kingston's been there for almost 20 years, 18 years, going on almost 19. And Xavier's been there, I believe, since 2011, 2012. Um, of course, Xavier got his start on the Indies and in TNA. Kofi worked a little Indies before WWE, but really, really honed his work in WWE, spending almost 20 years there. And it's just crazy that they couldn't even come to terms with these two guys, two of the best workers, best wrestlers, best storytellers in your company. Kofi Mania was one of the biggest moments in WWE history for the fans. Um, Xavier, as his alter ego Austin Creed, had the best wrestling video game YouTube channel. And I'm sure he's going to keep doing something like that. I don't know if that'll be the brand that he uses, but it's crazy. It's crazy that these two are gone from WWE. These two. And of course, as soon as this news came out, the immediate response was, oh, these two are going to bounce back in the best way possible because they are going to end up in AEW if they want to. And they are going to face the Young Bucks and FTR and the Rascals and Jet Speed and you name it. They have these fresh, ready-made matches. And if they want to be, they can continue to do this for as long as they want. And do other things outside of WWE, like the video game stuff, outside of wrestling, like the the video game stuff, and it's just mind-boggling that you would let this act go. And in the last year, they've really been spinning their wheels. They did that huge heel turn where they turned on Big E and got the fans to absolutely hate them, and then they just did nothing. Literally nothing, because Big E was not coming back to wrestle. So there was really no payoff to that angle. Just that they were heels now, and they were absolutely hated for doing what they did to Big E. Because nobody hates Big E. Ever. And it's crazy to me. Crazy. That these two are gone from WWE. And honestly, like I said, they're going to bounce back in the best way possible because not only, and they don't even really have to build up a new name for themselves because Xavier owns the Austin Creed name, so he can just use that. And Kofi, his real name is Kofi. So instead of going by Kofi Kingston, he can just be Kofi. And people won't have to relearn their names. I mean, yes, they'll have to come up with a new tag team name, which is fine. That's not going to be a problem for them. But it's just like what Kofi Mania meant to people as a whole. What that meant to the fans, and then what WWE did to end it was everything that is wrong with WWE. And again, we've talked about this. 2019 was one of the worst years in WWE history, and Kofi Mania was one of the bigger things, probably the biggest thing that happened in that year, and they just shit on it. They just shit on it by letting Brock Lesnar beat Kofi for the title in 18 seconds. And then Brock just went on to defend the title against Cain Velasquez in Saudi Arabia. And Kofi never got another opportunity. Never. And they never even paid off him losing the belt. And what that meant, they just put it aside and was like, here you go. That was your moment. Doesn't matter anymore because we don't care. And they never did. They never cared. And Of course, there were times where WWE had to go against what they wanted to do to because the fans were not happy. Yeah, the Daniel Bryan stuff, Kofi Mania. Those were things that the fans wanted, and the WWE actually gave it to us, but only did it to be like, here's the thing you wanted. Now we're going to take it away, and you're never going to see it again. That's what WWE does. They give us moments like that just to be like, hey, here's the thing you wanted. All right, now leave me alone. We're never doing it again. That's WWE. WWE just does not care. And also announced today was the release of Tonga Loa and JC Mateo. JC Mateo, Jeff Cobb, as he will now and forever be known, was brought in almost exactly a year ago. He was signed on May 10th of last year, released on May 2nd of the following. Jeff Cobb had 3 singles matches in his entire WWE run, and he only had 19 matches in the span of a year total in WWE. And WWE pulled him from having a IWGP championship match right before he was set to debut for them. And then they stripped everything away that made him cool. Stripped away everything that people liked about him and made him unbearable. Put face paint on him, put him in that horrible solo Sokoa group. Horrible. And just didn't let him be himself. Tongaloa, unfortunately for him, the guy's best quality is that he makes funny botches. And sorry to say, I mean, I'm sure if he wants to keep wrestling, he will. He'll probably end up back in New Japan. Or maybe he'll go somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, that guy, I don't know if he ever really got it. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy that the New Day's gone. Jeff Cobb is back, and like I said, New Day's gonna end. New Day, out of all of these people, and even before today, when the New Day was announced as being released, people were talking about the other releases and how all of those people are going to bounce back and who was going to end up in AEW, because AEW is not going to sign everybody, right? Out of everybody on the original list, I feel like they would probably look at Kaylee Ray for sure. Zoe Stark might get a look, might end up in ROH. Malachi, Aleister Black, maybe at some point, but not right away. Zelina, maybe. But that's it, right? They might even look at Joe Gacy because Joe Gacy's great, right? But now, absolutely, New Day is going to end up in AEW. I do not doubt that one bit. And when they do, we're going to see them face the Young Bucks, and it's going to be amazing. And Motor City Machine Guns also absolutely should end up in AEW. And I saw something today that actually I really want to happen now. At All Out 2021, we had the double debut of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. I would like the idea that's been thrown around, and I would love it, is to do something similar, where the Motor City Machine Guns come out, and then followed right by the New Day in the same segment, probably to after the Young Bucks like win the titles or something. Again, I would love that. That needs to happen because everything would be right in the world of wrestling if that happens. Because WWE is not wrestling anymore. It hasn't been in a very long time, and as I mentioned at the top, it's just soulless now. There's no care. There's no feeling. There's no nothing. It's just AI stuff run by a corporation that all they care about is money. And maybe that's just the way things are everywhere now. I mean, I know that feeling all too well with my work situation. Um, but yeah, um, just sucks. It sucks that all these people had to lose their jobs, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel for all of them, and I don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for WWE as a whole. Um, it's getting worse and worse, and I don't see any sign of it getting better at all. And I hate that because I've spent so many years watching WWE. I've been watching wrestling full time since I was 10. I am almost 36. And WWE was the beginning of all of that. And the it isn't the standard anymore. It might be they might have the most money, but they certainly aren't the best company anymore, and probably never will be in my eyes ever again. Um, and I'm sorry to say that. I'm very thankful that there are other options out there. Very thankful that there's an AEW. Very thankful that there's a New Japan. Very thankful that there's independent wrestling that I enjoy watching. Very thankful for all of that because I don't think WWE is the end all be all anymore. It's starting to become more and more obvious that WWE isn't even people's dream job anymore. There are a lot of wrestlers out there that want to be in AEW, want to be somewhere else, but not necessarily want to be in WWE. Some people still will, and that's fine. If they get what they want out of that, that's fine. But as a fan, for me specifically, and this seems to be becoming a common sentiment, WWE, they just don't care anymore. And they didn't before the Vince sale, before Vince was ousted out of the company, but now it's even worse. We all thought that WWE was going to improve for the better once Vince was gone. And in some cases it has, because we're not getting constant rematches, because the guy in charge forgot that the match that happened last week already happened. But now we're just getting ads, more ads than wrestling, more talking than wrestling. And we're getting WrestleManias that have more ad time than wrestling time. So I don't know what else to say. It's very unfortunate, and I thought I was going to get more angry in talking about this stuff, but now that I think about it and based on how I've been talking pretty much the whole time, it's just sad. It's sad to see that WWE as a whole, after all this time, it's just not what it used to be, and it never will be again. So I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you for listening, guys. Make sure to go to our linktree / going over big time podcast. Has all the ways for you to watch, listen, and to this podcast and support us on social media. social media for the podcast, for me, for Alan. The podcast itself has a Twitter account, a Blue Sky, and an Instagram. So you can support us there by going to the link tree. And thanks once again. As we say all the time, watch the wrestling that you want to watch and try to enjoy the wrestling that you want to watch. Unfortunately, for me, that isn't WWE anymore. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.